And I think that's one of the dangers of this is that,
right.
Again, the depth of meaning is not there. It doesn't point back to Jesus Christ.
You kind of sometimes need to change the phrasing because you have to be thinking about the meaning. So it kind of is a different mindset when it comes to your expressions.
Because it's not like you can go into a long explanation, but how do you explain it in a way that one is reverent and two goes back to Jesus Christ and shows our commitment to Jesus Christ, right?
What are we going to church for? What's the point? You could say I'm going to church, but then add something like to go and, spend my Sabbath day focused on the Savior or, something like that. That feels a little cheesy, even as it's coming out of my mouth.
What are some glib gospel words or phrases that you can think of that we can talk about? Welcome to the latest edition of Teaching Restored, where we get to talk about all the wonderful things we get to do as we teach the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm Kevin Jones.
I'm Julie Hilliard.
Julie, we recently recorded a different episode. And during that episode, hold on, I'm trying to find it here. Hold on, I should have had this pulled up, but did I? I did not.
We're so prepared.
I know, obviously. Well, look at us go, right?
Amazing.
John Bushman.
Everybody's holding their breath.
Right? You can let it out. John Bushman. Yes. And about, a number of things, but there's something in that interview that he said, and part of the book that I read that I was like, yep, that hit me. And I've been thinking, should I do a podcast episode on this? And then what sealed the deal is that yesterday I had an experience and want to tell you about this experience and how it changed things and how it affected me. So, we're in Sunday school and it's a packed room. We actually have taken our Sunday school and split it off into the Relief Society and the Young Women's room. And so we were in the Young Women's room and it was packed. And in there were two people who were not members of the church who were meeting with the missionaries. And as the person giving the lesson asked a question, and someone brand new to the word answered the question and mentioned garments. And this couple, the wife was like, garments? What are garments? What are garments? What? I mean, it's kind of like that. I mean, and she was a little louder, and she spoke up and actually during the whole thing gave her opinion and answered questions, and it was really good.
Awesome.
I was really impressed that she had the confidence to do that, and I loved it. But she was a little louder. She's a little louder talker, which some of us are, some of us aren't. But she was like, garments. What are garments? What? And there's a guy sitting next to her, and actually maybe behind her, who is coming back to church and has been for the last, year or so. And he's becoming more and more active, which is fabulous. And he said, it's special underwear. Oh, no. And he hasn't been through the temple, right? He hasn't received his endowments. Special underwear? What? Special? And so she starts yelling, special underwear? While this lady in the background who's new to her just keeps talking and answering, but she's all, what? Hi.
Oh my gosh, this is so awesome.
And so, and the teacher could not have heard it. I mean, she could not have heard it, right? She had to have heard it. But didn't correct anything, which understandable. Okay. And then we went on and she's like, okay, special underwear. Right? She turned to her husband. I guess it's special underwear. All right. Special. I don't know. Wow. Okay. So afterwards I went up and I had met him because he was in elders quorum. So I went up and met her and we talked and I said, hey, you asked about what garments were. And so I explained it just real quickly and okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah.
Did you use the word magic in your explanation?
Magical.
Magical.
I use magical. Yeah. Yes.
Did you use that? Okay, good. No. Just making sure you were on track with your explanation. Sorry.
Yeah. She did though. She brought that word up. Because she had heard that. Oh, she started putting things together like magical, right? I'm like, let me explain this, right? But I didn't want to go in and explain it in such a way. Okay, sit down. Let's have a discussion around.
I know, that's not the place, right? Or the time, right?
But it was important to explain it in a way that was more correct and more sacred. So she understood the sacredness of it at the same time. It's just not special underwear, right?
Right.
So for example, I went up and I said, okay, you asked about the garment. It's a temple garment. When you receive your endowment in the temple, when you go through the temple, trying to make it simple, go through, quote, go through is not what a lot of people would understand, but just to make it quick for her. Right. I said, you receive the temple garment. Now it reminds us of Jesus Christ. It could have been a hat. It could have been a coat, but it is underwear. But we wear these and we put them on so that we remember Jesus Christ. Oh, okay. And it's really special to us because we feel like we're putting on Jesus Christ every day. Oh, okay. Right. Just real quick explanation.
Right. But by the way, just really quickly, I love that you made it relatable, saying, well, it could have been this, it could have been that, you know what I mean? So that it kind of took what would otherwise seem very odd and kind of immediately, I'm sure, made her think of other sacred clothing that is different than underwear.
Right.
So I love that you did that. Okay, excellent. Keep going. Sorry.
So after that experience, I was like, yeah, we got to have a little discussion, you and I, Julie, about this. And it's what I have termed glib gospel phrases.
Got it. I love this. Okay.
Where we say things in the church and we don't think about what they actually mean and we don't give them the reverence they deserve because we say them. And really a part of it is we're going to say this. Everyone knows what it is. So I'm going to give it a shortcut phrase. Yep. And we start using that shortcut phrase in place of the more reverent phrase or word that we really ought to. And then we teach our kids these glib gospel phrases, and they grow up understanding that, not attributing it to what it really is or what it should be, right? They don't go, it does not, by saying these glib gospel phrases, which try to say that many times fast.
I know, right? It was a tongue twister. I'm not even.
It really disconnects what we're saying from the actual thing it is, from understanding and from the power of really what it is. And I think by correcting this, by not correcting it, we deny the higher and holier explanation or definition.
Right. So this, if I'm, let me ping the John Bushman episode where we had a conversation specifically about how we say in the name of Jesus Christ, amen, almost as though it is a word, a single word.
Right.
And in a way, we're missing out on what that actually means. And so that's probably what kind of prompted you to think about, oh, wait a minute, there are so many of these other things that we devalue or miss out on the depth of meaning because of the fact that we're a little bit glib in our use of them.
Yes.
Love it.
Yes.
Love it.
Absolutely. And I've been kind of tracking this for quite some time now. Just noticing phrases or words that are glib, and it kind of rubs me wrong. And then every now and then I find that I'm using it and I don't realize it. And then I have to stop myself and say, wait a minute, that is actually should be something different, something that maybe I've used my whole life. So what I'd like to ask you, off the top of your head, I know this is kind of sudden and maybe a little bit difficult. What are some glib gospel words or phrases that you can think of that we can talk about? I have a bunch, but I want to hear from you what you think some are.
Well, okay, so I thought of glib and rote, and I don't think that they're the same. They don't mean the same thing, but I think that there are some rote phrases that we kind of use.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that using them, like rote meaning more like repetitive, right? That it's just
Right.
kind of automatic. But glib is almost like not dismissive, but treating something lightly, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So I
But
think that
and
both,
whether it's intentional or not, right? It's not that
yeah,
we
right, right.
try to treat it lightly. It just
No.
happens, right?
Right, exactly. And so I had an experience yesterday that I could just throw out to kind of
Yeah.
illustrate one of them. There were some youth in our ward that were speaking, and I heard two of them as they shared their testimony at the end say, I know the church is true.
Good.
And I thought, you know, interesting. It felt like it just kind of rolled off the tip of their tongue.
Mm-hmm.
But then my husband, who's the bishop, came back for after church, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that this youth said that." He's like, "That was amazing. I was so touched." Because he knew that for him to articulate that, and this is a kid who is very authentic, for him to actually say those words was huge. But because
Nice.
it's something that's used a little bit more repetitively, didn't even register with me. It just felt like a testimony phrase,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
honestly, I would say that there are a lot of testimony phrases that we use that are like that. Even,
I agree.
if it could be absolutely true, but like in this case, it was loaded with meaning as far as
Sure.
my husband,
I
interpreted
like
it.
that. Yeah.
But to me, I was like, went right past me.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what that taught me as you related that story for me is that we pass these phrases on, and it's not that they're meaningless. It's not that there isn't a
No.
lot of heart behind them.
Right.
I really feel that if we were to strip away these phrases and these words
Mhm.
and articulated them in a way that was more reverent, more leading to Jesus Christ, that
Mhm.
our testimonies, our conversion would be even deeper because we would think about it more rather than rattling it off. Not
Right.
to say,
Right.
again, not to say that it's not sincere, but I think it would just, in our classes and our discussion with our kids, with friends, if we understood how to articulate these things without using those phrases, then it just becomes much more meaningful, much more powerful.
Mhm.
That makes sense?
Agreed.
Okay.
100%. And so when I shared that story, I realized it actually wasn't going to make the point that you wanted to make. But by the same token, in a way it is that
Yeah.
we sometimes, there has to be a way to do better so that it isn't glib or, kind of just blah, 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 and carries that depth of meaning, which is the point that you're trying to make. Because I think that sometimes it just is a little bit dismissive in how we say it. And sometimes we miss the meaning because we're so used to hearing it.
Exactly.
And that's kind of the
Right.
example I was just using. Okay, here's another one. How about exercise the atonement,
I love that one.
right?
Yes. Yes.
Or bless food, nourish, and strengthen our bodies.
Yes.
Or help us to be safe.
Oh my goodness.
Like
That
I can
one I
think of
hear all the
1,000
time.
prayer phrases, right?
Yes,
that we
yes, yes.
say. I also started thinking about how read your scriptures. Like we just say stuff like, "Did you read your scriptures?"
Yep, that's a good one. Yep.
Or okay, so I have kids who don't settle for those phrases. They're a little bit kind of like they prickle a little bit when I use those phrases with them, and they're like, "Mom, you say that, but like, what does it mean?" Or "Mom,
good for
you know
them.
what I mean?" Like,
Yeah.
I know it's actually really awesome, and it makes me a little bit uncomfortable because sometimes they don't even realize that I've said something that in a glib or kind of rote way. So, what are some of the ones that you had? I'm sure. I mean, I'll come up with more, but like, tell me some of them that you had.
Well, the classic one is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. saying that
Just
instead of Mormon or LDS, right? That right there is the perfect example. If we go back to President Nelson's explanation, that talk of this is what we need to do, and here's why we need to do it, we can take a lot of that learning and put it on the other phrases and words that we use. And it's the same thing, right? It doesn't point back, basically it doesn't point back to Jesus Christ.
Right. What came to my mind, what came to my mind when you were saying that is just how uncomfortable all of us were as we tried to make the adjustment to use the full name of the church.
Right.
Meaning that it is likely that as we try and shift away from some of these more, kind of glib phrases, that we're going to feel a sense of discomfort because it doesn't roll off the tongue as easily as some of these other things.
Right.
I'm going to actually point something out that, and I say this with 0% criticism. You know my love for other churches, but I sometimes feel like an explanation of a Trinitarian belief to someone who has a different belief is a little bit like this. Mm-hmm. Like, I know that it is fraught with meaning, like just chock full of meaning to them. But to me, I've heard the same phrase repeated. And so I don't really, like, that's an example from an outside perspective of someone who's receiving, so to speak, one of these phrases said in a way that's a little bit more repetitive. So the same would be true of somebody who isn't a member of our faith, right? Receiving, I'm using air quotes when I say receiving, one of those more repetitive phrases, what their reaction might be. Like, it just rolled off your tongue so quickly that I kind of missed the depth of the meaning to you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I think that's one of the dangers of this is that, again, the depth of meaning is not there. It doesn't point back to Jesus Christ. And so we just hear it as a phrase and it rolls off our minds and it's gone. Right.
You know what's so funny is that since that episode with John Bushman, I've been kind of practicing this in my personal prayers. Like, I realized when he said that, I kind of had a call to repentance moment, because I'm like, sometimes I get to the end of my prayer and I'm like, did I even say amen? Right. Like, did I even, because I'm like, moving on. And so I've been like trying to come up with ways to make that more meaningful, but I'm glad I'm doing it in silent prayers first, because I need to practice a little bit.
Good. Yes.
I'm not great at it.
Okay. That's good. That brings up another great point, is that some of these things need to be practiced. It does. Yeah. When we change from we're Mormons to we are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, oh my goodness, we need to be comfortable in saying that and looking someone in the eye and not going, I know that was long, but right? That was way too long. But like yesterday, I wonder how many people heard this great woman say, what are garments? What, special underwear? What? And then want to say something to her, but didn't know how to articulate it. Didn't know how to say, here's what, and do it very quickly, because it's not like you can go into a long explanation. But how do you explain it in a way that, one, is reverent, and two, goes back to Jesus Christ and shows our commitment to Jesus Christ, right?
Totally.
And so when we do this, we may need to practice some, Julie, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah. And it's okay to practice in our minds and in prayers, or to kind of mumble it to ourselves. Oh, that didn't work out.
Okay. So one point, though, that you made me think of as you were saying this is that the goal is not to get it to roll off the tongue as comfortably as the rote phrase, because then the new phrase will become the same thing. Mm-hmm. So the goal isn't comfort necessarily or fluidity of expression. Mm-hmm. The goal is to say it right and have the meaning come through. So you kind of sometimes need to change the phrasing because you have to be thinking about the meaning. So it kind of is a different mindset when it comes to your expressions.
Yeah. Yes, it is. And I think the comfortability will come when you get that new mindset, when you come up with the new words, right?
Right.
Like I was not uncomfortable at all going up and explaining this to her because I have actually practiced that in my head many times of garments. Well, what would I say to someone who just, what are garments and how would I explain that? I've actually practiced that in my head many times. And so going up, I knew what I was going to say and it wasn't a problem. Awesome. I was comfortable with it.
And remember that if you don't know what to say, just a thought. This is like a throwback to an episode long, long ago. But remember that sometimes the best thing that you can do to get your mind going is to actually ask them a question. Have you ever heard of garments before? Instead of going right into your answer, because then when they articulate to you what they know or don't know, then sometimes their words or phrasing will help you to express it in a way that connects better with what they already know.
Right.
So if, for example, she says, I've heard that it's magical underwear and or whatever that you only wear when you go into the temple. Oh, good. She knows that it's connected to the temple, right? Okay. She knows that, or she's used the word magical. So she's heard about it. And you can just kind of pull.
What have you learned about garments in the past? What have you heard?
Yeah. Right? What have you heard before? Yeah. Or is that a term that's completely unfamiliar? What did you think of when you heard that term or something, just to buy yourself a little bit of time to think? And also you get from them a little bit of information sometimes that helps you say your answer in a way that's more relatable to them.
Yep. And the Spirit can whisper, okay, now that you know that, say this. Here's a little bit of inspiration from that. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. Agreed. In fact, one time one part of that discussion, she said, so do you wear them all the time? I said, pretty much. Oh, awesome. She goes, what if you get sweaty? And I'm like, well, if you're playing sports, it's up to you. You don't have to. It depends on, what you're doing. I mean, you're not going to do it when you're taking a shower. That's kind of ridiculous, right? I mean,
or swimming.
Right. Yeah. Or swimming So interesting. Okay. So here are some of the things that I came up with. Temple.
Just the word.
Temple. Yeah. Kelly works at the temple and she was in a training and they said, we're going to refer to the temple from here on out as the house of the Lord. House of the Lord. I love that.
We were asked by an Area Authority 70 to do the same thing as we talk about the temple that's being built in our area, to refer to it as the house of the Lord.
Talk about in a phrase, explaining what it is, giving reverence and pointing back to Jesus Christ. It's not just a building, the temple.
So here's the problem.
Okay.
One thing, just a thought. It's advertised everywhere. So what people will be familiar with is the phrase, the Vancouver Temple. And so your explanation can sometimes, because you have to give people a reference point. So just a thought that you want to be a little bit sensitive when you're, trying to, because I do agree, calling it the house of the Lord, it really does add meaning. Like I think about it when I'm saying that phrase, and partially because it's a little bit uncomfortable for me to be like, ooh, that is very significant. Do you realize how significant what I'm saying right now is?
So it's not necessarily that saying temple is wrong, because obviously the church uses that term, calls it the Vancouver, Washington Temple, and that's fine, right? But when we go to explain it, or even among ourselves, maybe we can use house of the Lord. And again, I'm not saying that, that's the right thing to do and you have to do it. Just to be cognizant of the difference and when we might use it, and try to be a little bit more reverent and respectful of that, Right.
I mean, you're saying it with like a little bit of kind of questioning, because I think that we want to be careful that we're not scripting things for other people, right? And saying, always have to do this. You are a robot.
Exactly.
Because it has to feel naturally. But the point that you just made actually lands really, really well with me, because it's been my experience. After this Area Authority 70 said it to me, I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that. And I kind of had a little bit. Every time I use the word temple, I think house of the Lord. And, it's so
That's great.
amazing what that even does to me, because then when I'm even talking about the temple, I have that replacement phrase in my mind. And if it's appropriate, I use it. But if it's not, then I don't. But it does something to me.
Yeah, it does. Because it's both, you have to kind of check yourself. And when you check yourself by saying house of the Lord, you're turning yourself toward Jesus Christ in that very moment.
Conscious.
Yes.
Like you're being conscious and making a conscious turn. Yes, I would agree.
Yeah. Another classic one involving the temple is taking out endowments.
Yeah.
Right. Now, which can probably be more appropriately replaced with receiving the endowment. Right. And it's interesting how taking out compared to receiving totally changes it.
Completely.
Right.
Think about
it's another thought. Yep.
Taking something.
Yep.
Like you're entitled to it.
Yep.
Versus being open enough to receive. I mean, hello, you would never equate the former with something having to do with Jesus Christ. Like you're entitled to something or you're going to take it.
Yeah.
Right? You just wouldn't.
Right. Right. So you don't equate it to Jesus Christ a lot of times in that respect. But when you say receive, then you're asking questions like, who am I receiving it from? What am I receiving? What does that actually mean? When I go to the temple for the first time, what kind of an experience is that, rather than I'm just going to take out my endowments and do the thing that everyone does because that's what age I am, or that's what everyone does. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Here's some more.
That's a good one.
And so I hear this a lot, and I don't stop other people from saying this, but I just note it in my head when someone says, well, Christofferson, or, right. Just by saying the last name, right. My thought is, actually it's President Christofferson, or Elder Anderson, or right. And adding that a little bit more gives it more respect. When my kids, if any of my kids do that, I say it's Elder Holland. Okay. Elder Holland. Right. And I do correct them on that. Here's another one. It's more of a category where this stuff happens all the time, like constantly. And it's on a mission. There are mission phrases that are always, I don't want to say always, because it's not always used. And I actually, now that I think about this, one of the reasons I really started thinking about this was when we lived in Alabama, we had a mission President Holtzoffel. And it was kind of hard to pronounce the first few times. He has helped write a lot of curriculum for the church, and then he became mission president. And one of the things that he drilled into the missionaries' heads that I loved is, we don't use slang.
Good.
We're not doing slang. Right. And then, I mean, even things like trunky, we're not saying that anymore.
Right.
Things like, actually I was talking to someone and they said, well, I wonder if this person will be their father, which means that they're trainer, right?
Trainer.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And then they talk about how they were born in a specific part of the mission, in a specific area of the mission, or this was my grandson because I trained this person, they trained that person. Right. And there's a lot of those kind of phrases that it just becomes slang. I don't know. And so in the Vancouver, Washington mission, and I'm sure it happened in other missions, they started to use what they termed dignified language. Have you heard them say that? The missionaries around here say that?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's interesting.
I like that a lot. What?
Yeah, I do too. When you first started to describe this, you were going into the terms that you would use on a mission, but I thought you were referencing the phrase on a mission.
Oh, on a
And I
mission.
started thinking
Oh,
about
there's,
like,
yes. Yeah.
yeah, because I was like,
Actually,
do we miss
that's
an
my next one
opportunity?
right there. That is my next one, right? Written down. Yeah.
Stole your thunder.
No,
But I started
it's
thinking
great.
about that because we're saying that right now a lot because our sons are headed out on missions, right? Here I go. I'm saying it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know what a cool thing when I'm describing it to somebody who isn't a member of the church, I actually usually say he's serving a mission for our church because a lot of people, you know, talk about mission trips and things.
Yeah.
And so I think, I'm using language that they would use. But what if I was to say, you know, he's going to be sharing about Jesus Christ with the people in Argentina or something like that, you know,
That's
for
good.
2 years. And it's a little bit more instructive and a little bit more clear
Yes.
instead of assuming that they're going to know what a mission is.
Right.
Right.
I like that. Yeah. I love that you use the word instructive because in a way, what we're doing in our explanation is teaching and helping them understand what's really going on. Right. And actually, I went to the dentist today and I knew that she knew we were members of the church. And she asked about Royce and I said, yep, he's going on a mission to Brazil. And, you know, I could say that and I knew what she and knew that, that she understood what that meant. And, and she goes, so how long is that for? 2 years? And then I thought, okay, great question. And I didn't say this out loud to her, but my thought was great question. Maybe next time I need to say he's going on a 2-year mission for our church and throw that 2-year in because later on she said, my brother went on a mission. It was just like a week or so. Right.
Right.
And when people hear 2 years, they're like, whoa, they're not used to that. What? 2 years?
Right.
Are you kidding me? What are they doing for 2 years?
Yes, because a lot of these other mission trips and stuff are like a month long, so if we're not speaking about the same thing, if we don't explain it just a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's good one.
It's interesting that a lot of times to people not of our faith, we can say these words and we think they all mean the same thing, but we have very different definitions of them.
Right.
Lots of phrases, lots of words, right?
Agreed.
Oh, here's one. Okay. So as I was thinking about this, I went, okay, mission. Okay. Well, here's one that is in a leadership capacity. So when I was, before my calling, I was in the bishopric. And one of the things I never liked, I never said anything about, but I didn't really like was when they would get up, hi, welcome to our ward is Mount Norway. So welcome to the Mount Norway ward. I'm brother so-and-so. I'm conducting and this is who so-and-so is presiding. And I didn't like that because the Mount Norway ward means nothing. It means nothing. Who cares about that, right? Yeah. So I would get up and I would say, hi. I mean, hey, everyone, how you doing? I didn't do it quite like that, but I would say, welcome to the Mount Norway ward for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I would say the whole thing so that visitors, when they came, they knew that we're focusing on Jesus Christ, that it is this church, not just Mount Norway ward. What the heck is that?
Right.
So it's, and then another one, and I saw this and I saw someone do this when I was visiting another ward and I loved it. And I did the same thing when I was conducting sacrament meeting, but he said, next week we don't meet here because it's general conference. And if you don't know what general conference is, and he went into a full explanation of what general conference was, for the people who may not understand it, right? We could take that for granted. It's general conference next week. We're not going to do that. And people who are new to the church or visiting, they're going to be like, what? What is that? We're not meeting for what is what and how and what do right? But by explaining it, and again, we're focusing back to Jesus Christ by explaining it in a more reverent way than just, oh, we're doing general conference.
Right. One of the principles that you're bringing up and what you're saying is that, well, so I feel very strongly about this. If we are a missionary minded church, if we talk about the importance of inviting friends and neighbors to come and join us, then we need to behave as though we expect them to come. And
that
so
they're there.
even if there's nobody there that we see that isn't, like we don't spot that face, we need to get in the habit of making room mentally, emotionally, spiritually for people of any faith background. And so part of what you're describing is an exercise, I think, that all of us should be going through pretty consistently. You don't have to be conducting church to be doing this, right?
Right.
But even in our conversations, with our friends, challenging ourselves, even if they know enough about the church to understand lingo, like I'll sometimes say to someone, because they'll say, which church do you go to? And they are meaning specifically, because they know I'm LDS, which building, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of just being like, oh, I go to the one up on Prune Hill, I'll be like, oh, do you know a little bit about how we're organized? And I'll explain that we're organized geographically, and that, and just kind of give them an opportunity to talk and engage about it. That we have a lay ministry. It just kind of brings up all sorts of things when you engage a little bit more than just answering people's questions, or when you challenge yourself to phrase something differently than you normally would. So you actually made me think of another one that is a pet peeve that I think we're doing much, much better at generally as a church, because we've been more informed. It's been brought to our attention, is references to the priesthood.
Good. Yeah.
Right? Yep. Or talking about, and then we'll go to priesthood.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll, the priesthood are going to.
Yes.
Or it's a priesthood activity.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And just like, even, my husband's been really conscious of this with his bishopric, to say, things like, we're grateful to those that hold the Aaronic priesthood for their service and
very good. Yes.
And
rather than
just
saying,
phrasing it a little bit differently.
Rather than saying thanks to the priesthood for blessing and passing the sacrament, right? Yeah.
Right. But even just that phrasing, I know it's a couple of extra words. All of us are thinking about where that responsibility comes from. Do you know what I mean? It's not, you aren't the embodied priesthood, and phrasing it the way that we do, we're making that the noun.
Right. Yeah. You are not the priesthood itself.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's the power of Jesus Christ. Like we got to point it back to where it belongs. So I don't know. Was that one on your list?
It wasn't, but I love it. Oh, that is a great one.
Yes. I got one not on your list.
Well done.
Thanks.
Let's see another one.
Okay.
Oh, this is one that with John Bushman we talked about. Go to church.
Oh yeah.
Right. And actually I want to circle back to go on a mission. Both of those. How can we phrase those differently? Go to church and go on a mission. Yeah,
that's right. So going on a mission we talked about, right? Like he's going to go share about Jesus Christ with people in Argentina or something like that. But like, what are we going to church for? What's the point? Mm-hmm. You could say I'm going to church, but then add something like, to worship Jesus Christ, or, to go and, spend my Sabbath day focused on the Savior, or, something like that. That feels a little cheesy, even as it's coming out of my mouth. How would I naturally say it?
Good. I'm glad that you pointed that out. It's not always easy to come up with something different, right? Instead of saying, hey, we're going to be late for church, we could say, hey, we're going to be late for partaking of the sacrament. Oh, yeah.
If we don't,
we need to hurry, not just because we're going to be late, but because we may miss the sacrament.
Oh, that's a good way to light a fire under your children. Parents, you're welcome. Children, we are going to be late to partake of the emblems of the sacrament. If you do not get down here right this second, you can even say that in a calm voice, but there is enough power in it that they are going to get their rears out the door.
And all of a sudden they're going to act differently. Huh.
Yeah, right. We wish. Okay. So anyway, let's be real about it. Yeah. I hear what you're saying though, because that's the point. That's the reason that we're going. And so instead of just being like, you guys, we're going to be late for church, be like, we do not want to be late for the sacrament.
Yeah. Right.
It's different.
It is. It is different. I remember Elder Bednar back to the mission thing. He actually gave this talk in general conference, but before that, he came to our stake and talked as a 70, at Quorum of the 70, not just a 70, but Quorum as a member of the Quorum of the 70.
Thank you.
Here we go. Thank you.
Good.
And he said, I don't want you to go on a mission. And everyone was shocked. I'm like, what? Mm-hmm. He said, I want you to be a missionary. Totally change the mindset of everyone there. And that's kind of what this is doing. Every time we can take one of these phrases and change it to focus on really what's going on or who it should point to, Jesus Christ, or in a way that helps us take ourselves out of the rote way of thinking about it, then I think we're going to come out ahead. Now, in class, Julie, how can we use this principle in class?
That's a great question. So let me add, before I answer, something that might be part of my answer. This is not intended to trip people up or make you think so hard that you're paralyzed and can't talk, right? This is not the intention of this. Like, I kind of am all, oh no, nobody's going to want to be a missionary now because they don't know what to say.
Right.
Like, your whole vocabulary has just been taken away. I'm so sorry. Find new words. That's not the point. The point, like, 50 to 75% of it is just to get us to be conscious of how we're saying things instead of just like letting it roll out of your mouth, right? Mm-hmm. And the consciousness in and of itself will yield fruit and, will come out ahead, so to speak, like you just were saying. And just that exercise mentally, hopefully will bring blessings. So how does this apply in teaching? I think that one of the things that I'm learning, and like I mentioned a little bit earlier, my kids are really good at teaching me this because they won't settle for lingo or those rote responses. They ask me questions or they push me a little bit harder. I'm finding that when I'm talking to them about things, I have to make it as authentic as possible.
Good.
And the best way to make it as authentic as possible is to kind of strip away lingo. Yeah. And I think that that's part of what we're doing is we're trying to strip away some of the lingo, strip away some of the culture. It's that, John Bushman's book, King Before Kingdom.
Yes.
We don't want to be able to speak kingdom to people. We want to speak of the king. And so anytime we can figure out what the meaning behind it is and just do that mental gymnastics for a second, right? To be able to come back to Jesus Christ and what it's really about, we will say it better. We will say it more authentically. We will express it in a way that lands and that the Spirit can testify of. And so that goes for our classes as well as, any other opportunity when we're talking to a friend. I think that we ought to stop speaking lingo to each other in our classes and start having authentic, real talk, and challenging ourselves in this way might make it more real.
How do we do that though?
So I have this friend, I've told you this, I think before, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself, that the first time she got up to teach said, I'm going to think of this lesson as you and I sitting cross-legged on the couch, if you're flexible enough to do that, because my husband wouldn't be, sitting cross-legged across from each other on the couch and we're chatting. She's like, that's what I want this to feel like.
That's neat.
And so you have to model it for people to do it back. And the other thing is sometimes I've said this in classes that I've taught before, pretend I don't know and talk to me like I don't know. Or let's strip away all the lingo and let's get to the meaning behind it. And I might even say, okay, that phrase is off limits. Now tell me how you really feel. Or explain it to me without using that phrase. What is it? Yeah. Taboo? That game Taboo, right?
Yeah, that's good. Words. I like that.
But we should challenge it. We should push for that in our classes. I don't think that we that's not going to make people uncomfortable. I think it's going to make it awesome.
As a teacher, I don't think you have to have the alternate phrase already in mind, right? If you can recognize it, someone says something and it clicks in you and you think, oh, that is a shortcut phrase. It's more glib. It could have more power behind it. You could just say, okay, stop for a sec. I just said this, or you just said this. And we all know what you mean, but that's that doesn't point back to Jesus Christ. Might there be another phrase or another way to explain it, even if it's longer, that we could use to do that? And say, I'm not trying to criticize you or anything, because I use that too. I genuinely want to try to figure out, how do I explain this in a better way that points back to Jesus Christ? And then have the class do it as an exercise together. And even say at the beginning of the class or each class, hey, if you see one of these phrases that we just use all the time, point it out and let's stop and let's talk about it. And make it a group thing that you're all doing, so that it doesn't fall on you to have the right answer all the time.
Right. And they will probably call you on it sometimes.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Which is so awesome, because it means they're paying attention. But I mean, a really simple way to say what you just said is, hold on, let's pause. Let's try and phrase it differently so that we get back to what it really is about. Let's take out this and just challenge them to say, hey, I love what you said. Let's say it again without using phrase.
Right. Yeah.
So love that, Kev. I think it could be really powerful.
And I'll tell you, it's changed as I've thought about this more and more. And as I've changed the way I talk because of this understanding and this, I think everyone to a level has seen this happen. Well, just the name of the church, right? That we've been a part of that, and that's been great. It has changed the way I talk. It's changed the way I feel about the things that are, I want to say basic, but not basic. The things that are rote, simple, that happen often, maybe like the sacrament, right? We get so used to the sacrament that we maybe stop thinking about what it really is. We just do it. Well, it's the same with these phrases. Once we stop and really think about them, and the power comes back into these phrases, into the way we speak. And I honestly think that we can speak with more power and teach with more power by exercising this muscle. And I think it is a muscle that we have to exercise.
Totally agree.
It's not easy.
Well, I mean, we've mentioned like 5 things that are already difficult for us, right?
Right.
So for me, I would say definitely a muscle.
Now we got to work it out.
True.
So my invitation for everyone is to just be cognizant of it, of different phrases. And there will be phrases and words that you won't catch that you're saying for years. It may be years before you realize, oh, wait, I've been saying that, but I've been thinking about it. And why didn't I see that earlier? Why didn't I recognize that earlier? It's okay, right? We're just trying to, again, bring more reverence and turn it back to Jesus Christ, whatever it is. So, and bring that up with your family. Say, hey, family, I recognize we're doing this. And, it's not bad to do that, but there's a higher and holier way to speak about these things. And in fact, Kelly did that with the temple. She said, I'm going to start, we should all recognize when we talk about the temple and we can say house of the Lord, let's do that. That's great. Right. That's a great example. Right. Let's do that with our families and start doing that in our classrooms, with anyone we teach. And I think we'll start thinking about things in a different way that point back to Jesus Christ a lot more naturally. I love that. Absolutely. So there we go. There's my invitation to everyone. Yes. And then, of course, get back to us. I would love to hear other phrases that we haven't thought of, that other people say, or that we say. Call us out. Do that. Oh, that would be the coolest. I want someone to write to us and say, Julie.
You use this all the time.
That's right.
I know.
I want to know. Sure call us out.
It's probably going to be me. Do it.
And it'll be me too. Guaranteed. Yes. All right. That's all for today. Thanks for listening, everyone. Go unglib yourself. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Teaching Restored. Now, we want you to know that there's more than just this podcast, more than just the discussions that Julie and I have with each other or with other guests that come in. There's a lot more. Let me give you a few things that where we just expand this reach. Number one, there's a community where you can go online and learn from a lot of others and even give ideas yourself. And that is found if you go to leadingsaints.org or teachingrestored.com and look at the community link there. That'll take you to a whole community. And we are a part of the Leading Saints community there, where we talk about, among other things, how to be better gospel teachers. So I would highly recommend you go there. We have some incredible discussions, some real passionate discussions of ideas and different things that we can do to be better gospel teachers. And also we have all of our socials. If you haven't been there, go connect up. We bring in other people's posts that you may not have seen that have great ideas, snippets from General Conference, and just ideas that don't take an hour podcast. They're a lot shorter that we just want to throw out of some good ideas. And then if you would, of course, please pay it forward. Share it with other gospel teachers. That way we can all become more converted, more gospel-centered, and just better teachers of the gospel of Jesus Christ overall. Thanks for joining us in this journey. The team here at Teaching Restored, we so appreciate it. And we love what we do. And this has been a wonderful journey for us. And we're excited about where this is still going. We have more plans to expand the content and expand things out for you. So stay tuned and we'll see you around. Thanks for joining us.